Objectives. After undergoing this module, teachers will be able to describe the concerns of the CBSE for introducing CCE, differentiate between challenges of implementing CCE at the systemic and school level, identify the challenges of implementing CCE at your own school, and construct solutions to the challenges in your own school.
You must have heard the story of 3 stone cutters. One day, a gentleman walked into a large courtyard and found 3 people are breaking stones. He walked up to the first one and asked, "Gentlemen, what are you doing?" The stone cutter looked up to him and he says, "Well, you can see I am breaking stones." The gentleman said, "Oh, very good, thank you." He walked up to the second person and again asked, "May I know, what are you doing?" The second person looked up to him and back to his work and he says, "Gentlemen, I am actually sculpting an idol of goddess." He said, "Very good." And he moved to the third person and asked him, "May I know, what are you doing?" The third person looked up to him with a big smile and he says, "Well, I'm actually constructing a temple." The gentleman said, "Very well, thank you very much." He walked out of the courtyard. Apparently, all the 3 people are actually doing the same thing, that is breaking the stone. One had no perspective at all. The second had an intermediate perspective, but the third one had the real and larger perspective of what he was doing. For any innovation, we need to understand the perspectives. For successful implementation of CCE, understanding of the perspectives is necessary. Continuous and comprehensive evaluation is actually not a knee-jerk reaction. It has a long history. It first found mention in Radhakrishnan Commission as early as in 1948. It also found mention in the Secondary Education Commission in 1952. And then, as all you know, it found a very prominent place in the Education Commission of 1964-66. It was also mentioned in the first National Policy on Education in 1968. It was reflected in the 1975 document of the NCERT, 10-year schooling, the framework. It had a prominent place in the National Policy on Education. It was repeated and recommended in the first National Curriculum Framework of 1988. It was mentioned again in the National Policy on Education Review in 1992. It found a mention in National Curriculum Framework of 2000, and it occupied a prominent place in the National Curriculum Framework of 2005. CCE intends to measure what education intends to achieve. I'll present to you the perspectives from 3 different strands, but they are all interrelated to each other. The first important strand is from the angle of the school itself. Conventionally, the students who are able to write in the examination and get good marks have been recognized to be the brilliant ones. You must have noticed there are a lot of other children who know equally well but cannot write in the examination. They don't get that recognition, though their knowledge and learning may be at the same level. But imagine the students who are creative, talented in sports, games, music, drawing, dancing almost finds no place in the school's list of honor. CCE brings in that equity and an opportunity for everyone to excel with whatever potential that student has. There is a possibility of getting recognition for scholastic, co-scholastic or co-curricular skills. This is an important departure from the conventional schooling. The second important dimension is that of the teacher. All of you as teacher, which I too was at some point of time in my career, you are always burdened with the curriculum and the challenges covering the curriculum, preparing the students for examination. We hardly have an opportunity to be creative, to experiment with innovation. CCE, with its flexible approach, has created a larger space for the teacher to be creative, to be innovative, to experiment with teaching learning process, to come closer to the students with deeper engagement for mentoring and assessment. This is again a very, very new dimension. The third perspective is that of the parents. The usual discourse between the teacher and the parent is about the subject and students' performance in the academic subjects. Parents of the first generation learners in the schools have had no opportunity of going to the school themselves and have any mastery on the academic subjects for discussion. So they normally feel shy to go to the school. With the larger perspective and framework of CCE, now even the parents of the first generation learners find some space, some subject to discuss with the teachers. So CCE is bringing parents closer to the school, which is necessary for all-round development of the students. School-based management is the global trend of our times. CCE is a school-based evaluation, which is an integral part of school-based management. CCE is a mechanism of empowering school, an opportunity to come of age with freedom and dignity bestowed on the school. A teacher steers and mentors learning of her students. Who else is better suited to assess the learning of the student and mentor to move forward for the next milestone? CCE gives back the teacher that recognition and dignity and thereby empowers a teacher.
Activity. Critically examine the perspectives of CCE described in this video. Systemic challenges.
Like any other innovation, CCE also faces a lot of challenges for its implementation. Let me flag a few major challenges. As you all know, CBSE schools are not only spread all over India. There are private schools, there are central government schools, that is schools under Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan, Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti, Central Tibetan School Administration, and others. There are state schools like Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Chandigarh Administration, Delhi government schools. Also, when you look at private schools or what you call public schools, they are not at the same level of development. There are schools who are comparable to any good school in the world, but they are few. There are many schools in the private sector who are still struggling to find their feet. Now imagine, CCE has to be implemented in such a heterogeneous condition. Second aspect of heterogeneity is the teacher. Although teacher qualification is the same, but don't interpret as same teacher quality. Availability of high quality teachers in the metros are significantly different from the availability of such teachers in rural, semi-urban or remote areas in the country. Third heterogeneity is about the students themselves. On the one hand, students from higher echelons of the society go to the schools, especially the private schools. At the same time, students from the extreme other end of the society, where many of them may be even under BPL, also attend CBSE schools. CCE is meant for children from all these kind of homes, which vary in their not only socio-economic conditions, but also in their educational background. That's the most important challenge.
The first challenge is the teacher to know the importance of this scheme and she should know how to deliver it.
The first challenge would be, how do we put across to the teachers and the parents and all stakeholders?
During our research and survey on CCE, many teachers expressed their concern that students are no more serious about academics. They feel that CCE has actually trivialized assessment. The challenge is how to change the mindset of the teachers and also the parents, that performing in academic activities is not the only purpose of schooling.
Unless all stakeholders are in for it altogether, they understand it properly and internalize it, it cannot really happen in the right spirit.
The third challenge is the challenge of managing shifting of power. So far, teachers were used to implement the examination designed by the board itself. Teachers didn't have any opportunity of designing their own way of assessment. CCE has transferred that center of power from board to the school and in the school to the teacher. It's not very easy to absorb that shifting of power to oneself when they are actually not used to it.
One teacher, 35 students, 18 parameters multiplied by 10, 180 parameters of observation is something which is humanly not possible by a teacher.
The teachers must know where to draw a line, what kind of and how many projects to be given, how to make children work in groups so that they can benefit the most and the learning also takes place.
I have also come across many teachers who said that CCE is not working. I asked them many times, what are they doing? What they revealed was more or less what they are doing earlier. It's necessary to understand that CCE demands an alternative pedagogy altogether. Now that alternative pedagogy is still not within the reach of the teachers. Many schools have introduced a lot of activity-based learning. But let me assure you, it is not just the activity replacing teacher lecture. It is choosing the activity linked to certain levels of objectives and creating a pattern which we call in our semantics as learning design. We need to train teachers in this new approach of creating learning designs for children.
Our teachers are not trained in collaborative learning. They are not trained in making children learn on their own because they have been brought up in a system where everything was spoon-fed. So now when we want children to research, so first of all, teacher has to change the mindset.
They are used to a very standard kind of measurement and evaluation tool where the marks and percentages are very quickly calculated. When we talk about CCE, there are a whole lot of intangibles, the co-curricular aspect, the empathy, the thinking skills, and the critical thinking. I mean, these are the things which people mostly have not heard about it, and to measure it, it's one huge task.
All the time teacher is under strain that she has to complete it because the FAs have to be taken and so on.
Another important challenge is actually the assessment itself. CCE does not need only alternative pedagogy but also alternative mechanisms of assessment. Conventionally, we use multiple choice questions, short answer, very short answer, and maybe sometime essay. Whether that kind of assessment system will work, we need to figure out a new mechanism where, along with these kind of tests, we bring in many other tools like interview. I'm not talking of what is known as oral examination. I'm talking of interview where you can probe a student to see what is the actual depth of knowledge. You can give performance test, give them tasks, and see how they perform on the task. Now, that shift from conventional examination in a hall to a multiple set of testing mechanism is a major shift and a major challenge for the teachers.
Activity. Critically examine the systemic challenges identified in this video. School level challenges.
The teachers are conditioned to a particular style of evaluation. We need to uncondition them and then train them to be at one level.
Let us understand from the global literature and our experience that many innovations get lost because as the pressure on the implementer or the adopter releases, they fall back to old conventional habits. Teachers, principals, and all of us have developed certain pedagogical assessment habits in our own life and over a long period of time. CCE challenges all those habits and styles to change. One important challenge is to protect the teachers from reverting back to conventional practices. Like any innovation, as I mentioned earlier, implementing CCE has a lot of systemic challenges and also challenges at the level of schools, classrooms, and teachers.
Regarding the training of teachers, now one training has been given by CBSE, but then the follow-up has to be done. The teachers have to sit together, discuss, and whatever cobwebs are there, whatever difficulties are there, they also have to sort it out. Right now the initiative has to be taken by the schools also. Keep having ongoing training programs, in terms of which tool they are using, or especially in co-scholastic, how to assess values and so on. So all these things, if the teachers sit together and sort it out, is much better than just giving grades to overcome keeping all the problems under the table.
Then CCE has whole lot of infrastructural issues also. The classroom size, the clubs where they're going to have activities, sports areas, art and craft rooms, so many activities that we would like to have in CCE. Where are we going to host those and handle those and conduct those activities is a big issue in itself.
And I think the schools should come forward and take on this responsibility, the right spirit, and come out with have their own plan at the micro level, macro level, and the execution, how it has to be done. Somewhere the subject teacher is involved, somewhere the HOD is involved, somewhere the academic head is involved. So if you plan it out, there will not be any burden on the teacher and the student. Although this kind of planning, each school has to devise its own. You can't have that CBSE will do all your hand holding. A lot of hand holding has already been done in terms of giving you the question papers, how to, these manuals that have been brought out, what kind of FAs, what kind of tools can be used, all that has been done. Also the data, the question bank is there. But then we should also take an initiative what suits the school so that there is no stress on anyone. I think that's number 2. And number 3, I would take it as the diagnostic aspect, is very important. And what happens is the teacher gets no time for that because she's busy with the assessment, the evaluation all the time. So I would suggest that it should be mandatory, one period per week or something, to see that whatever the child is, lacking in, that kind of input is given.
Activity. Discuss in groups the various challenges in planning and organizing the process of CCE.
In this module, we have presented to you the larger perspective of CCE and the systemic and the school level challenges. CCE obviously brings in a different paradigm in school education. What is important is to change the mindset and accept the new paradigm. To achieve that, need to provide authentic training to teachers so that they learn CCE the way it was actually conceptualized. We must standardize the training and capacity building of principals and teachers to certain level of benchmark of quality. Also, schools and teachers must learn to appreciate that CCE is a school-based innovation that intends to empower schools and teachers.